This is the Unstarving Musician podcast. I'm your host, Robonzo. The podcast features conversations with me, indie music artists, and industry professionals, and it's all intended to help other indie music artists be better at marketing, business, the creative process, and all the other things that empower us to do more of what we love. Make music. Hello and welcome to another episode. I am, of course, Robonzo. My guest is Lynz Crichton. She is a good friend and a mentor. She's also making her third appearance on the Unstarving Musician. And more recently, she's the creator of Music Marketing Method, a program, as she calls it. It's not just a course. She says music doesn't just have to be about live gigs or live. I've watched her go from about 5,000 to 32,000 Twitter followers between 2017 and 2021 this year, so she knows a little bit about online audience growth on social media. She has a background from prior to that, I don't know how far back, but as a secondary school teacher before she went full-time as a musician, which makes sense because I've been part of her Music Marketing Method program, and she's a really good teacher. She's very organized. She's really good at disseminating information, making it easy to consume and fun. She makes money from many directions since her growth. Her growth from the newbie in 2017. She wasn't that new. She was already rocking then, but the growth has been incredible. Here's some of the areas that are covered in Music Marketing Method, just to give you kind of a hint of some of the things we talk about. So, audience growth on social, of course, email list growth, live streaming, online session work, Patreon, crowdfunding, endorsements, YouTube, and more, much more. There's an amazing fortnightly Q&A hive mind session that happens as part of being part of the program. And for those of you that perhaps aren't English or European, fortnightly's every 2 weeks. I had to look that up or ask. There's also a Facebook group. Who doesn't have one of those? But this one's filled with lots of support, lots of wonderful musicians and fellow students. So that's cool. And Lynz, of course, in there encouraging us all the way. And now, among the many ways that you can support the Unstarving Musician is through Music Marketing Method. So you can just go to unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor to learn more about supporting this podcast through Lynz Crichton's Music Marketing Method. I really enjoy talking to Lynz. I was telling my wife, she has the greatest British accent. I told Lynz once she reminds me a little bit of Paul McCartney, but she was doing something else during our conversation, which made me realize I know nothing about what the accent is really like, other than from her, where she's from or where she gets the accent that she has. But it's really lovely, and she's just got a great demeanor. She's very positive. You'll hear that. And you know that sometimes overly, outwardly positive people, they can get under my skin sometimes. It's just too much energy for me. I believe in being positive, believe me, but sometimes it's just a little too much energy for me. But with Lynz, I don't know. It's just it's very chill and positive. I love it. So, without further ado, here is me and Lynz Crichton.
All right.
Hey, sunshine.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. You look great. I like your colors.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it's kind of like clinching on to the last bit of summer here in the UK as we go into autumn. I thought I would, jazz it up today.
Yeah, looking good. And you look like you got a little sun, did you?
Yes, in France. Well, actually, yes. And I was doing a bit of gardening yesterday, which I if you know me at all, I don't do gardening. But I just thought the outside of my house just needs a little bit of TLC. And quite frankly, I'm going all in. And it was super hot yesterday. So I don't know whether that's a good day or not really to do gardening, but we'll go with it. It's fine.
Cool. Well, what time is it there?
It is 4:30 in the afternoon.
That's not bad.
Yes. How about you? Are you in the morning?
10:31 a.m. Yeah. Let's dig into it really, just right now. Refresh my memory as to when you launched the Music Marketing Method course. Do I call it a course? Can I call it a course?
You can totally call it a course. I have been calling it a program only because I feel a little bit like course. Lots of people are telling me they're kind of like, they're either coursed out or there's a lot of people creating courses. And I think everybody feels a little bit like when the word course is mentioned, they feel like they're about to be sold to, which I see it as solving problems. So if somebody has the problem that I can solve, then I help them. So I call it a program because it isn't just the course, it's the Facebook group with the support and the Zoom calls. So it is a program. But if the word course comes out, it doesn't matter.
I like that. It's not a gang, it's a club. It's not a course, it's a program. No, actually, I totally get that. And I think you're right that to a degree, we can get coursed out, as you say. So I think that's a smart move. So I'll have to that's a good tip, actually.
Yes, with your program.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, did you get to the part where you said when you actually launched?
No, so the initial launch was December 2020.
Okay.
During a pandemic.
Yeah. You were built for the pandemic, though. It's one thing I will never forget. I was asking people about how important it was for them to build a local audience, and maybe also sprinkled in, like, how has the pandemic changed what you do? And your response to both of those things were different. I didn't talk to 100 people, but I might have talked to about 50. I'm not sure. But your response stood out because, A, you started online in a way, building this whole thing. Your following as a musician, and because of that, you were already built out online. So when the pandemic hit, it was like no stride lost. That was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess we still have to have both, though, right? I mean, wouldn't you say, like, just to be totally bulletproof, you want to be able to do either or, correct?
Well, if we think about a lot of the things that I've spoken about, and I'm not sure if you want me to allude to the fact that you have done the program or not. So I don't have to do that.
I'm still in the program.
Yes, true. But one of the things that we often talk about is streams of revenue. Mm-hmm. Why would I kind of completely negate one stream of revenue, which is, of course, anything to do with live? I'm going back out live. The thing that I kind of want to help independent musicians with, though, is that it doesn't have to just be about live. Because I think before the pandemic, a lot of people were thinking that you had to put all your eggs in that live basket, the touring, the merch, that's how you got your money. And I guess with musicians, big artists on record labels and stuff, yeah, when you've got the marketing budget behind you, that was a way that you could make a lot of money in one go. But for independent musicians, we talk about streams of revenue. So, now it's a wonderfully blended thing that you can be making money from streams of revenue online and offline as well.
Yeah. And I don't know if you ever carry it out this far, but like, what happens if the internet dies on us, or maybe just individually? I guess if it happens societally, we have bigger problems than just where we're going to get a gig. But
oh my gosh, can you imagine? Would you think like if that happened, that would be worse than COVID?
Probably, yeah.
Well, there's a thought.
So maybe it's an exercise, a thought exercise to carry out for the future of the program.
Yes. The other Armageddon that could happen.
or even if you just sort of isolate it, like, maybe you have a student someday in the near future, if you don't already have one, that's in one of these countries that decides, oh, you can't get on the internet anymore on those sites that you used to, and suddenly things have changed. Or, I live out in the jungle, as my family says. I kind of do, but, hey, in theory, you would think in these kind of places, well, I should just take the United States. It could more likely to happen there than it is to me. But I don't know. The infrastructure crashes down on me internet-wise, and I don't have it. So I don't know. I'm being a little extreme and dystopian again, but
yeah, but I think as independent musicians, we have to, where possible, and any small business, it's not just about musicians, certainly creative people, but anybody in business nowadays. Yes, we have access to the internet, so we have access to global audiences, which is fantastic. But if you should always own your data. I mean, look at MySpace. When that went down, that was terrible, and people lost audiences overnight. That's why you shouldn't put all your eggs in the social media basket either, and you should try and, own your email list or contacts of whatever description. So
heck yeah. Amen. So in your words, tell listeners why you started Music Marketing Method and I guess who it's for.
Yes. So the music marketing method was started out of a genuine desire to help independent musicians to find their fans online in the first instance, grow their audience, and set the foundations of their business the right way to start making money with their music, if that is an aim of yours, but also to just get your music into the ears of people who want to listen to it and who need it and desire it and want to hear new music, but they just don't know where to find it. I see it as our job to connect our music to our potential super fans. But having spoken to now hundreds of musicians on Zoom calls and telephone and whatever else, I know that this is still something that people find difficult. And so I feel a little bit like with Twitter, I cracked the code on how to grow an audience and how to get in touch with fans. And grow a business from my music. And so I believe in sharing that with people. So that's why it started. Who's it for? Anybody who wants to get their music out there, because I hear that phrase a lot. What does that actually mean? So I love to kind of deconstruct what that is. But singer-songwriters, musicians of all kinds of genres. I even have people in the music marketing method who have blended the music with something else. So they might be podcasters, or they might be fitness instructors that have this music part of their business. It's wild, but ultimately it is about understanding how to build an audience that's not just relentless posting on social media in a hamster's wheel and a vacuum, and not understanding why or how or what effect that's having, but to really see the step-by-step guide of how to find a fan, how to get them to turn around and look at you, and then for you to be able to do the dance, do the thing, and then get them to come into your community, and how to build that community and so on, and how to talk to fans. So I was quite a long explanation, but who it's for and why it started, that's it.
I like that. There are a lot of people selling courses and programs, and I was lucky to become acquainted with you, maybe via Twitter.
Ironically, yeah.
Maybe through Carlos Castillo, there was a loose connection.
Yes.
I mean, I know there is a connection between the three of us, but we talked. I'll ask a question in here too. We talked for the first time on the podcast. Dang, is that 4 years? 2017? Does that make it 4 years ago? In September?
Yes. Was it?
It was probably August when we spoke, and it published on the 1st of September 2017. What do you think your following was, and assuming that was on Twitter, was in late 2017?
That is a great question. I can only presume it was probably around 5,000-ish, maybe.
And what is it today? Ish?
32,000, something like, I don't know.
It's amazing.
That's just on Twitter. I mean, there's of course other platforms as well, but mainly I think around that. Yeah.
And by what percentage do you think, or if numbers are easier, if that's anything you care to disclose, but percentage-wise maybe is good. What about your email list at that time versus today?
Oh my gosh. It was probably about 20% of what it is now. I think obviously my email list grew in tandem with the following and the conversations that I was having with people behind the scenes and so on and so forth. I think there was probably a period of, I don't know, a year, even 18 months. I mean, we've just been through a pandemic, so time is like warped to me now. But it's sort of the last kind of period where I haven't even been actively growing my following or email list or whatever, because I now have projects and work that come across my desk that I'm just doing partly because I've grown that audience or made those connections or whatever. And so, I'm just doing that paid work. But, when things go quiet again, as they do, it ebbs and flows throughout the year, then I'll just get back onto the growing the audience again and talking to people again and so on and so forth. So, it was much less back in 2017, my email list.
That's a pretty big spread, though. And the reason I bring them up is I started with, there's a lot of people offering courses and programs, and a lot of very nice people, a lot of them with great programs and courses, some of whom you've taken courses from, and perhaps I have as well, or interact with on a regular basis at least. But I got to meet you, nice person, great person, good songwriter, and I watched you do this growth thing long before you decided I'm gonna create this program. And so as soon as I saw you were doing it, I'm like, okay, that's interesting. For a couple of reasons. One was, oh, look at that, she's adding this to the arsenal of income. And then the other one was like, I really was curious at what you were going to do. I thought this has potential to be really good because this is Lynz we're talking about. I've watched what you do, and clearly it was working for you. And so the only trick was, could you teach it to other people? And that was the other thing I was really pleasantly surprised with, is how good you've been at disseminating the information and organizing the whole thing. I've been through some courses arguably by people who have more gears turning in their little organization, people helping and stuff, and you really are right up there with some of the best ones I've done. So good job.
Oh, thank you, Roberto. That's really sweet of you, and I really really appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Probably one thing that people don't really know about me is that before I became a professional musician, I don't know why I just did air things for that, but I used to be a secondary school teacher. So I taught languages. I didn't even teach music. I taught French, German, Italian, and Spanish. Would you believe it?
Wow.
But I think from that, when I look back at that experience, I did it for about 10 years.
Wow.
And now I think, well, my training was to take a piece of information, break it down to its smallest parts, and then redisseminate that so that people can understand it. So the fact that you have had that experience in my course is awesome, because it just means all that experience has gone into it, but it's working. So thanks.
It makes sense to me now. I was thinking as we were going through it, and as I watched you refine all the components of it, like the online, I'll call it a repository, where we can go back, or for a new student, we can go through the video sessions and then get into the live Q&A that you do on a regular basis. Watching you refine that was really good too. But I guess you were leaning back on the core of education experience that you had, and I'm assuming you had to go through some new challenges to figure out, okay, how am I going to piece this together in a way that's easy to consume and it works well for me, and so on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To be honest, there were, I've already spoken about why the course came about in the first place, because I genuinely, there have been times where I have been so frustrated at certain bits of, whether it's the music industry or just you being the CEO of your business. If there's only you have to figure it out. And there are certain components like live streaming, for example. Live streaming is our product. I'm really passionate about it as musicians, and being able to live stream with great audio. It took me ages to figure out how to do that well. And so I thought, I don't want other people to spend 6, 12, 24 months figuring this out, when actually the kind of the result is right there. So let me just, help people with that. So the course was born out of some of my frustrations. But the telephone conversations and Zoom calls and things with musicians as well. I did my market research before I created it. So I didn't want to create a course going, this is what you're going to need. It was more, what do you need? Tell me where your frustrations are. And even when people jump on calls with me now, if they're vaguely interested in, I might want to come in the course, but I don't know if it's for me. I always start the conversation with, what are you frustrated with right now? Like, where are you stuck? Because I don't want people to come in to my course if they're not a good fit. That's useless for me and it's useless for them. So I want to know where people are currently struggling so that I can help them, or to find out if I can help them. And that's how I started the course as well, by talking to hundreds of musicians. And every story was different. There's no doubt about that. But there were very common themes running through a lot of those conversations where I was thinking, okay, building an audience is really hard for people. They don't know how to do that. Live streaming with great audio is hard. They don't know how to do that. Monetizing their music, that's hard. They don't know how to do that. And there are so many, as you now know, so many opportunities out there now to make a living with your music. It's a crying shame that people have to kind of go down certain rabbit holes of old music industry thinking, believing that that's still the right way to do things, and it's not.
It's a path, one of many. I think it's probably important to say that it's not the only way for sure, and in some ways it's a very broken way. But
yeah,
I mean, I see some cases where the industry musicians have some success, sort of going through what is now the model of the industry. But it is one path. It ain't easy, and I think the more common case is like your student body, people who have not gone through that track, or they have, but everything's changed. I'm thinking of Brooksie Wells. Wells, is that Brooksie's last name?
Yeah, Brooksie, yeah.
Yeah, who has like a rich career history and has restarted it, and everything has changed, So it's a wide range of students and the type of people that it can work for. Would you say that the most important thing, assuming that you know how to write music, you're putting out the best product you can, people actually want to hear it, would you say that the audience building part of it is probably the most important thing? And if yes, you agree with that, or not, you can tell me. What's the next, most important part of getting yourself moving upward to being a musician who can get your music out there and make money?
I was just thinking about this as you were talking. One of the students in the music marketing method, she's called Kalina. She's an awesome thing. She's awesome. One of the things that she said really struck and stuck with me, which was, the awesome thing about the course or the program is not so much that you teach us how to build an audience and you teach us how to, move these potential super fans along this fan journey and this line, but it's the variety of opportunities that are available to us now, but you don't tell us you have to do this one. We can cherry pick, we can watch the whole thing, or we can, kind of take on all that information and we can cherry pick what works for us. So I guess in answer to your question, I would come back, and I'm hoping that this doesn't sound like a nailing jelly to the wall kind of answer, but it is what is important for you as an independent musician. Like, what do you want your life to look like? So when I started as a musician, I've just said, I used to be a secondary school teacher, and I left that career, and I just had two kids. They were very young, and so things like touring and so on, that was not an option for me. And so the reason why I'm telling you this is kind of important is because, what is your current situation? What do you want? What are your goals? Where do you want to go? It's not just about, is it important that we build an audience or whatever? It's all these pieces that are important to you and what you want your music career to look like. I think what I try and do in the program, and this is kind of unintentional, but I just want to showcase to you what is possible. And then for you to go, that will work for me, that will not work for me, that will work for me, that will not work for me. And you get to just choose the bits that work for you. So it's like building your own jigsaw. Choose the bits that work for you.
But is there any way to find success with the pieces that work for you without the audience?
Oh,
in
I
some
see.
cases?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for example, some of the remote session work that I showcased in the program, you don't need an audience at all for that. If you get into sync licensing, you don't need an audience at all for that. Custom songwriting, you actually don't really need an audience for that either. There are kind of agencies and companies out there now that you can hook up with to kind of be an artist on their roster. You don't need an audience for that. So there are lots of ways that you can be making money on a consistent basis, and you don't need an audience for it.
That's a good point. I'm thinking of the analogy, when you're doing gigs, there are these places, a lot of them, where you've got to bring an audience, and there are these other ones that have a built-in audience.
Yeah. Yes.
And I suppose that's what we have online today. There are many things that we may want to do, like launch a course or a program like this for which we need an audience, but all those things you mentioned, there's built-in audience or ecosystem out there for a lot of these things. So
Yeah, definitely.
that's good. I like that. I stand corrected. There are so many ways to generate income. There are so many ways you can approach your music, as you pointed out. I think early on, I don't know if you had to sort of fine tune the messaging. I'm sure you have, but I think early on, some of my classmates, I call them, were like, "There's just too many things." I'm like, "Well, that it's a menu," and I'm sure you've kind of tweaked it that way too. As you explained it, there are a lot of different ways you can do this. You need to be able to find the ones that resonate with you or that you feel like will work in your world, and try those. Now, it seems like you have tried just about every one you've talked about, and if that wasn't the case, how did you implement anything that you haven't spent a lot of or much time in, or maybe no time in, but on some good, credible source that this is a good option to look at?
I can't think of any that I haven't used myself. I think
pretty
that's
amazing.
partly, yeah, well, I think that's partly why it's another reason why I wanted to build this course, because I've been in other courses before where things have been suggested to me, and for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out. And so I think 100% people don't pay for information, they pay for transformation. And so I wanted to create a program that was no fluff, no filler, and gets someone from point A, where they are now, to point B. And if on that kind of discovery call that we go through at the beginning, if they say, "This is where I currently am, Lynz, and this is where I want to go," if I think I can bridge that gap, then we're a good fit and we can work together. But genuinely on that call, if somebody says, "I want to go down the Spotify rabbit hole and I want to get my streams up," it's not something that I specialize in. And I will say that from the get-go. But I don't personally, now I've got nothing against Spotify, by the way, I don't kind of go after streams because I know that I can make a really good living from a relatively small audience. And I just want to showcase that to people, and just other ways of doing it. And there are loads of them. So
Yeah, I think it's so funny for me. I'm trying to reflect back on the introduction of different avenues that you do present in the course, in the program, and I don't know that I can't think of any that were completely foreign to me, but it was really cool to see and hear from someone who's used them, who can sort of walk you through how to use them, what your experience was, and plus just have this repository of, okay, I can go choose this thing this month that I'm gonna I'm gonna try and tackle and go for that. It seems to me too that clearly this is true, that you can get a great presentation of all your options and information and a path to transformation, but the real kicker comes in with the execution, right? One thing that you shared with us almost in passing was I don't know if you called it the 12-week year or whatever, but it was basically a 12-week goal planner. And I thought it was pretty cool. I made my own spreadsheet based on that thought, and I failed miserably at a lot of them. But I think having these weekly 12 weeks of things that you're trying to accomplish, and seeing how you do in a very defined time range, and that for whatever reason that does seem like a great time range, 12 weeks, is good. I mean, it's good to tell you either like, okay, I'm not focusing well enough, or I'm shooting too high, or I don't care, I'm going to keep trying to do all these things. I'm focusing, I know I am, but I'm okay with failing at some of them because I can, as I want to, I can roll them forward as I do execute some of these things on that list. So I thought that was really cool, and I guess I want to ask, what are any other tips that you have for your students or anyone who listens to this, whether they join your program or not, for moving the needle, getting through, executing, and not just having a path to transformation in front of you, but actually living it?
This is a really interesting one. So a lot of this comes down to mindset. This is partly why I love the fact that in our Facebook group that we have, I love to celebrate baby wins, baby steps every single week, so that people don't just, I mean, it's very interesting that what you were just saying, and you were focusing more, you personally then, when you were talking, were focusing more on the things that you'd failed at during those 12 weeks and the things that you'd achieved. But I would say to you, I need to talk to you about that, Roberto. We need to just break things down and sort of tackle things one thing at a time. If you can get 1% better every day, 1% better every week, whatever your time frame is, you're doing better than you would have done had you not created the goal in the first place. I think one of the ways that I've set out the program is that it does come in a chronological order for a reason. Just tackle one thing at a time. Some people like to come in, for example, and watch the whole thing and then go back and kind of implement the things that you light them up, fire them up. Other people want to do it kind of as they go through. Again, it's whatever works for you. But in terms of whether people kind of execute or not, the cold, honest truth is that's down to you.
Yep.
So whether if when you're inside the program, if that is something that somebody says that they're struggling with, that I want to work with them to help them get through that, whether it's to create an accountability group, or, that's partly why we have the fortnightly Zoom calls as well, because I want to hear about these things so that I can help and encourage and guide people through. Because I'm the first to put up my hand and go, do I get everything done on my to-do list? No. but I think having that support network around you and the hive mind is a help as well. So that if you are stuck on something, you can't shy away from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice to have, the Q&A or the hive mind sessions we have can be inspirational for sure, as can some of these little things we discuss in the Facebook group that students get access to. And yes, I can speak to that power of accountability. I met this woman I don't think I even met her. I saw her speak at Podcast Movement, and she's got this cool concept I was interested in, and so I emailed her or messaged her on Instagram to ask about getting the resources for that. So she sent them to me, and then immediately right after, days, and then in the weeks after, she's like, how's it going? Do you have any questions? Did you get started? And then she finally says, I'm going to be your Instagram accountability buddy. And, it mattered a lot. It mattered a lot. I actually, I drafted, was drafting a sponsorship slide deck, was what I was so interested in doing. And I kept thinking in the back of my head, she's kind of trolling me on Instagram, so I need to do this so I don't disappoint her. So.
Oh, do you know, though, there's something to be said for nowadays, especially since the pandemic, but I think we were all doing it before the pandemic as well, where we have so much information coming at us all the time. As creative people, musicians or non-musicians, whatever, we are supposed to be content creators. But if we feel like we're not creating the content because we're constantly consuming content or information or whatever, that's a barrier. So, our lives are so busy that sometimes, again, I bring it back to the goals. What is your goal? What do you want to do? And I would say it should be one thing. Right now, it should be one thing.
Yep.
That's it. Just do the one thing. Then when you've done the one thing, you can go on to the next thing, but don't make a to-do list that is like from here to Christmas and then be disappointed at Christmas when you didn't do them all. Like one thing.
Yeah.
So if your one thing is Instagram right now, do the one thing, Roberto.
Yes, indeed. That is good advice. So what are you working on for the program right now, or what are you thinking ahead? Maybe you're not in that space right at this moment, but what are you thinking about for the program in the future?
Do you know, I actually haven't thought about that yet. I think the program, the kind of finalization of this most recent iteration is quite recent. We've just had the summer, so I think just going into autumn now, I just want to at the moment make sure that all the students who are in there are getting good information. They are implementing that. If they're stuck, they've got someone who can help. I do have a couple of ideas, but I don't really want to go down necessarily like a purely, I was going to say Instagram as an example, like a rabbit hole on another platform, because again, there's already enough information inside the program as there is, and people can, say to me, "Oh, where do I start? What do I do first?" So I think just getting people to implement what we've already got in there. Mm-hmm. And getting some more lovely students to come in. Yeah.
You know what I loved about you haven't gone down any social media rabbit holes, which is great. I think that's really smart. But you do this, and I remember one instance very well. You mentioned that you'd done an Instagram reel to the Q&A group, the fortnightly hive mind. And you mentioned what happened at the engagement was really such a great surprise, and that was sort of it. And so you gave us something to just go check out. You encouraged us to go try one, and that was cool. And we didn't have to go down the Instagram rabbit hole, but you're like, hey, I wanted to share this thing that happened with you guys, and try it out if you're on there. And that was good.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm really glad. It is something that I have been investigating in the recent weeks and months myself, but there are so many people, like whenever I go onto Instagram at the moment, I don't know whether it's just my feed being curated that way because of what I've been consuming. But there's so many people on there who are either doing courses or reels of kind of information on how to get your reels shown more, how to grow your Instagram. And I just think, when I see stuff like that, I think I call it like a red sea. There are too many people swimming in that sea. There's too much going on. And it will, for you as a musician or a content creator, that will make it even harder for you to cut through the noise. I've shown you over here, like on the Twitter, for example, there's a way in which not only you can kind of grow your audience with potential super fans, people who are going to love your music, but there are radio DJs on there. There are bloggers, there are podcasters, there are all sorts of venue promoters, all sorts of different pockets of people that you can go. There are on Instagram as well, but one thing, I bring it back to the one thing. If you try and spread yourself too thin and do too much, you won't get anything done.
Is there anything that you're crazy excited about right now that is just outside the perimeter of the course musically? Personally, or
me
otherwise?
Releasing some of my own music, because I feel like I haven't done any for ages. My poor patrons are like, when are you giving us this music? So in 2020 I wrote a new song every week. This was before I'd even created the course. Oh, wow. Obviously not realizing that a pandemic was just about to hit us all globally, but I still carried on. And regardless, I was even homeschooling my two kids at home, and I was like, I am still going to write a song a week, which I did. I got to the end of 2020, I was 52. In fact, I think there was 54 songs in there. And amazing. Some of them are already produced because I produce my own music as well. Some of them are not produced. I don't want them to die on the graveyard of hard drive of my music. So just outside the course, that's what I want to do, and kind of get back into like music creative mode as well myself, because I am an independent musician myself. I didn't just create a course and that's that. I want to walk the walk as well. So that is genuinely what I'm very excited about.
Are you intimidated by the challenge of managing the program the way you are and trying to get some of your music out? And if so, are you thinking about ways to, I guess, mitigate the challenges or get through them?
Yeah, I mean, I will be honest, that is one thing that I do. I just need to kind of organize myself better. I mean, I call it a champagne problem. The reason why this is so difficult for me right now is because I'm having custom songs come across my desk. I'm having remote session work come across my desk. I'm having sync license stuff coming through my desk. So, what a lovely problem to have. But with, juggling that with the course and with my own music as well, just releasing that for my own tribe. Yes, there are quite a few plates that I'm keeping up right now, but it's all right. It's good.
Nice. And what's I guess one last question out of curiosity, the the ongoing life trajectory of the program, are students trickling in, or are you taking them and marketing them in batch or bringing them in batches?
No, so the first 2 iterations of the course, I taught it live to groups. So they were kind of live launches with groups of people. But now it's in an evergreen version. So the course is there as and when people are ready. And so I guess, yeah, they're kind of coming in as and when they find out about it and so on and so forth. I'm ready. If you're ready, I'm ready. So come on in. But yeah, I don't do kind of big live launches and then close the doors. I know some people do run their courses like that, but for me, there's no need for me to do that right now. So at the moment, it's open.
What is the best place for curious musicians to find out about the course?
I think the best thing to do, the thing that I'm saying to people now is, if you feel like you are stuck and anything that we've discussed today sounds interesting and you want to learn more about it, jump on a call with me. It's not like a heavy sales call. I don't do that. I want to find out where people are stuck and if I can help you, and then we can have a chat about that. So there should be a link. I don't know if it's going to go in the show notes.
There sure will. But what if they're like, I don't want to go to his show notes, I want to go direct? Where do they find you?
Oh, okay. So the best thing to do is to go to lynzcrichton.com.
Okay.
There is in the store on my website, there is a tab about the music marketing method. You can't kind of join directly from there. You still need to either just email me or my Calendly link, my kind of open diary where you can book a call with me is on there as well. So just get in touch and I can help you out. But it's easy for people to go to lynzcrichton.com and they can contact me from there.
Cool. And that will be in the show notes, and we'll have other info about the course there. Did I leave anything out that we should have talked about that was important for people to know about the course or anything, or did we cover it?
I don't think you did. I think you covered all bases, and that was magnificent.
Well, thank you. Well, if there is anything that we forgot, you let me know, and we'll make it available in some other form to listeners and my community. And I'm really happy to see your face today, and I'm really I love being in the program. I love the people I've met there. I'm very happy to be under your tutelage.
Yay! Thank you so much, Roberto. And thanks for having me on your lovely podcast as well. I mean, 3 times is a charm as well.
Yeah, you're in a club for sure. Thanks, Lynz. I recently asked over 50 podcasters the following question. What's the number one reason that the startup of your podcast was delayed? Among the most common themes in their responses were fear, procrastination, and tech. What if I told you it doesn't have to be so hard? What if I gave you the confidence and tools you needed to start your podcast today? If you want to share expertise, dig deep into a special interest, help others, get more people to visit your blog, expand your personal brand, grow your network, then podcasting might be for you, and this course might be for you. Podcast Startup covers tech, which includes gear and software, hosting, editing, format options, marketing, and more. To learn more about this course created by yours truly and the Unstarving Musician, just go to unstarvingmusician.com/podcast startup. This episode was powered by Bandzoogle, the platform for musicians and bands to build their website and manage direct-to-fan marketing and sales. Bandzoogle features powerful design options, a commission-free store to sell music, merch, and tickets, detailed fan data, integrations with social networks, and more. Plans start at just $8.29 a month, which includes a free custom domain name. Try it at bandzoogle.com and use the promo code Robonzo, ROBONZO, to get 15% off your first year. That's bandzoogle.com, promo code Robonzo. This episode is also powered by ConvertKit. Remember the old days of collecting email addresses at the merch table with a notebook and pen? Now that notebook has gone digital, so you can promote your music everywhere and keep fans both old and new in the know. And you can do it with ConvertKit. Use landing pages designed for musicians to create an easy way to promote your next album, embed your music videos, and link out to social platforms and places to download music. Don't rent your audience, own it with an email list. Visit unstarvingmusician.com/convert to create your free account today. You'll be supporting the podcast in the process. Did you know you can help other independent artists find this podcast by subscribing on Apple Podcast or wherever you are listening to your podcast these days? It really does help, so I hope you will consider it. The Unstarving Musician podcast is made possible through the support and generosity of listeners like you. One of the easiest ways to support the podcast, if you're a musician, is to join the Unstarving Musician community, which you can do at, you guessed it, unstarvingmusician.com. In joining the community, you get tips and insights you can use in your music journey that comes not only from me and my years of experience, but also from the hundreds of other musicians that I speak to as part of the Unstarving Musician project and podcast. Plus, you'll get a free copy of my Unstarving Musician's Guide to Getting Paid Gigs ebook, the official version, and that's all for free just for being part of the community. You can learn about other ways of offering support by visiting the Unstarving Musician crowd sponsor page at unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor. And if you have feedback, please go to unstarvingmusician.com to get all my contact info. You can text me, call me, email me, leave a voice message right there on that page. Just go down to the bottom of the page and you'll find everything you need to know. I really would love to hear any of your comments, suggestions, questions, whatever you've got. And you can find links to just about everything talked about in this episode at unstarvingmusician.com/podcast. All right, I'm peacing out. Thank you for listening and sharing with your musician friends and fellow indie music fans. Peace, gratitude, and a whole lot of love.